If it hasn't happened already, I believe that in each of our lives here, at least once, you will have one of those experiences, one of those moments, which causes you to ask the life-meaning questions. Questions like, what's really important? Or what makes for a full, rich life? Or maybe it's simply as, why do I do what I do? Sometimes it is the medical diagnosis, or it's perhaps the loss of a job, the death of a loved one, are trigger points for those questions to be asked. But at the same time, so is the birth of a child, a promotion, a windfall. Those two can trigger the questions within us. I had one of those moments, one of several, I think, in my own life. This is my third year of theology, which is, at the end of that year, we are ordained transitional deacons. 2 months before my to-be ordination as a deacon, I came down with a bleeding ulcer. Hospitalization, transfusions, pretty serious stuff. After 2 weeks away from the seminary, when I returned, the rector, who was a wonderful man, said to me, Chuck, I'd like to meet you in my office. Never a good sign when you say, I'd like to meet you in my office. And he simply just asked for me to consider postponing the ordination for myself. Just to say, we want to make sure you're healthy, strong, discover why you got the ulcer. Certainly sadness came over me, questions came over me, because in a way I've been preparing 10 and a half years for this moment. And to be changed. Things worked out fine. I was ordained with my classmates. But one of those walk-away questions, answers were the giftedness of, in this case, what ordination was. It was a gift. No matter what we had done, what I had done, it was truly a gift from the church extended to me. The gospel today offers us similar type questions to think about. The first one is, how much is enough? The scene starts off when a brother shouts out to Jesus, hey, tell my brother to give me my share of the estate. Now, hopefully you haven't been a part of that, but I'm sure somebody here has witnessed disagreements on the estate and the will, and it can get nasty. And he wants Jesus to be the arbitrator. Jesus is too wise for that. It's like, why are you asking me to do it this way? And then begins to tell them a story we're all familiar with. A man who has a bountiful harvest, wrestling with himself, what am I going to do with it? And so he, decides to build new barns to take care of his future. But interesting, the dynamic that occurs with that. Two things that'll happen. One, it's his own safeguard for the future. But two, supply and demand law, he might raise his prices to sell for those in need. So the question is, how much is going to be enough for him? It's interesting to walk through that. What do we do with all that we have? I began to think also about storage units. Do you know that there are over 50,000 facilities that are storage units in the United States? The United States has 93% of the global market. We have a lot of stuff we're saving, folks. Some of it may come through downsizing, obviously. Some of it is, I want to hold on to it because it has memories. Or it's something, certainly I'll use sometime, or my kids will use it. Last night after Mass, somebody came to me and said, well, he had heard, if it's cool stuff, it's not considered hoarding. I don't know about that, but this thing that we've come to possess, we're running out of space. Literally, figuratively. But I wonder also about those storage units. Is it an interior unit? Do we store within them our fears, our angers, our hurts, our addictions, and we close the door and we save them also. So how much is enough? I can't tell you that. But what I can tell you is, in thinking about the question, is to walk through, what are my needs? What are my wants? And do I know the difference between the two? And if you're really still stuck, remember this old axiom, taught by my father, funeral director. There's never a U-Haul following a hearse. Okay, just keep that in mind for the future. What do I do with my bounty? That's what the gentleman in the parable had to wrestle with. He had a windfall. Fascinating to listen to his language. My harvest, my grain, my barn, my bins. So much my that he even just talks to himself. What am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I should do this. What do you think? He just got really turned in a little bit. Little sidebar trivia. This is the only parable in which God speaks. And God has a conversation with them. Sorry to tell you this, but what if today's your last day? So what really matters? How much is enough? What do I do with my bounty? Certainly a wonderfully generous group of people here. But what do I do when I have a bounty? What do I do with what I have? Again, an invitation for us. And the last question, I think, is the most difficult, but probably could answer all the rest. What matters to God is how the story ends. What really matters to God? I think each of us could come up with many different answers, and when we put them together, it would be amazing. But I think perhaps a simple starting block is this. What matters to God is relationships. Relationships that we have with one another, which comes under of loving one another as we love ourselves. And the relationship that we have with God, in which we surrender and commit ourselves to this loving God. I think that's one of the bottom line ones of what matters to God. But as I said, however we might answer that question, will probably tell me how much is enough, what makes for a full life, why do I do what I do, all those things, because I'm going to think about what matters to me. And what happens when I put both of those together, what's important to God and what's important to me.